Yakima. His Indian name was Fish. He was a Bear Clan.
The man who would become Frank White was born atop this 400-foot mesa in January 1882. Yakima Pueblo, 50 miles west of Albuquerque, is believed to be the oldest continuously inhabited community in North America. Imagine the transformation he'd experience in his lifetime, beginning with forced education at government schools.
Santa Fe Indian School today, the old part, still looks like it did 100 years ago. The Indian schools were a military environment. Their places of sadness, and therefore the whole process was to take the Indian out of the child and make him a white man.
In light of their military training, Native Americans who attended Indian schools signed up for World War I nearly en masse, a 90% enlistment rate. Frank White was one of about 4,000 Indians who fought in World War I. Upon enlistment in the Army, he wrote dozens of letters to the superintendent of the Indian school, asking to purchase Liberty bonds.
Dear Mr. Snyder, this afternoon is payday again, and I have money to send to you for the Liberty bonds. You asked me if I would like to have you send to me the Liberty bonds. Well, Mr. Snyder, I expect it to be in a safe place. If you will, please keep them for me there at the school.
Dear Frank, your letter of November 7th, enclosing checks amounting to $150, was received some days ago. I have purchased Liberty bonds of the second issue for you, accounting to this sum. At your suggestion, I am keeping them in the safe at this school until you may need them.
There were 4 Liberty Bond drives during World War I, and Indian people participated to the same degree as any other American did. It also represented their participation. I am as patriotic as you are.
Arriving in Europe in August 1918, White notified a new superintendent of his location with this notice.
Dear Frank, your postcard addressed to the undersigned advising us that the ship on which you sailed has arrived safely overseas came this morning. You may be sure that everyone here is glad to know of your safe arrival. We shall be gladder still when we hear that you are safe and sound after the job of licking the Kaiser has been carried through to full completion.
3,000 miles from home, an American army is fighting for you. Everything you hold worthwhile is at stake. Invoking the spirit of our forefathers, the Army asks your unthinking support to the end that the high ideals for which America stands may endure upon the earth.
In the Argonne Forest, White helped the famed 77th Division complete the mission, fighting alongside other Americans in the biggest operation in victory of the American Expeditionary Forces in World War I. After suffering a leg injury, he returned to a base hospital in San Antonio.
Dear Frank, we have nearly 400 pupils belonging to this school. All would like to see you. Yesterday, 2 airplanes came down and alighted just a little distance from the front gates. It was the very first time any of the pupils ever saw an airplane. Also, very few of the teachers had ever seen one. It was a wonderful sight for all those who had never seen such a machine before.
Well, I don't see how your pupils can say that airplanes are wonderful. I don't call them wonderful. I call them blurry German planes. They are very terrible. They don't fight very much, but have great big bombs and make a whole lot of damage. All I had to do if the German airplane came over me was to lay down still, towards the ground, on my face, shut my eyes, and wait for the bomb to land on my back.
They've been through something terrible, and they start to create what we call a narrative of that event. They start to tell their story. And a lot of the time that starts with writing letters and telling their family back home, this has happened.
America has many glories. The last one that she would wish to surrender is the glory of the men who have served her in war. While such devotion lives, the nation is secure. Turning to a veteran, she can say, these are our defenders. They are invincible. In them is our safety.
The American Expeditionary Forces were honored with several huge parades in New York City in the summer of 1919. It took a war in Europe and the cheers of thousands on the streets of Manhattan for FrankWhite to finally feel vested, a true American.
Now you're one of the Yanks come to save the people of Europe. You are a hero. What stories he could take back of the world beyond.
But I am very glad to get back to America, not in France. There's not a place like America, and I am feeling pretty proud of myself because in New York, people call me a real American.
Frank was a bit of the old world and a bit of the new world. He kind of represented where our Pueblo people needed to go in the 20th century. We're dual citizens. We are Americans.
Yeah, okay,